Here you can see our dog Scamp sporting a yellow vest which says "Ni mouton ni cobaye." This means neither a sheep nor a guinea pig. It proved popular and lots of people on the protest took photos of him. This channel was never intended to be a political channel, but it was intended to show what life is really like in France, rather than a fantasy Disney version of life in the sun. Unfortunately, we found it impossible to ignore what is happening at this crucial point in history. However, I think you have all seen the protests now, so this is the last protest video we will show you, although we will continue to go on the marches most Saturdays. We will continue on this channel, YouTube permitting, with videos showing aspects of life in France and interesting places as we discover them. In this particular video, I'm going to simply show you some of the footage we have of the last two protests we attended, and at the same time talk to you in general about the situation we find ourselves in here in France. And the same thing is happening, of course, to a varying degree elsewhere in the world. The pass sanitaire, or health pass, has been introduced in France so that the unjabbed can no longer go to the restaurant, cafe, cinema, gym, library, theatre, and more importantly, the hospital, doctor, dentist, etc. Doctors and nurses were given a deadline of 15th of September to get jabbed. Many of them refused. According to the politicians, the figure for refusal is 3,000, but I have also heard the figure of 300,000, so it's difficult to know the true figure. I do know that operations are already being postponed or possibly cancelled because of the reduction in personnel. These doctors and nurses have not been sacked. They have been suspended without pay, so that they cannot claim any financial help while they look for other jobs. What a disgraceful waste of expertise, and what a way to treat valuable staff. We go on the marches mainly to be able to socialise with like-minded people. There are some seriously deranged people in France, as there are everywhere. You know, the idiots who wear masks alone in their cars. It's difficult to feel anything other than sorry for them, because at least in this part of France they are not aggressive, they are simply terrified and brainwashed. Those on the marches, by contrast, are well informed, intelligent, and they know what's going on. You learn things on the marches. One woman from Vendée told us that 14 people in her immediate neighbourhood died shortly after the jab. Another woman told us that she was homeschooling her children because the jab was being introduced for 12 to 17-year-olds. I heard one woman say that parents are being kept out of the decision-making process, as is happening in England at the moment, I believe. Parents are terrified that homeschooling will soon be made illegal, and it is certainly the case that youngsters are being constrained at a vital time in their lives from simply getting the training they need to form careers. They even have to take the shot before enrolling on training courses. There is little or no talk about the secondary effects of the jabs here in France in the official media. Placards on the marches, however, do refer to the secondary effects. One woman bore a placard which described how a 13-year-old boy in France had gone blind immediately after receiving the shot. Anyone who doubts this need only look at the official databases of adverse events available online. Many people have been left blind following a jab, and that is not by any means the only adverse event you find on these adverse event databases, which don't give the full picture because information is given on a voluntary basis. Take this adverse event, for example, reported online. A 16-year-old from the secondary school in Valabre died from thrombosis, and an autopsy revealed that the jab was the cause of death. Autopsies are rare. Most secondary effects are glibly attributed to coincidence. Someone from Narbonne said that her 18-year-old son nearly died of myocarditis after the first jab. These are healthy children with a robust immune system. Common sense should tell people that they should not be jabbed. This is a baby born after the mother, who did not wish to take the jab, was told she could not have a cesarean unless she was jabbed. As can be seen, the baby is seen to be shaking uncontrollably, and the doctors do not have an explanation as to why. This did not happen in France, but it is a major scandal which alone should have put a stop to the entire jabbing program. I'd like to tell you a story about my husband, who is a retired lawyer. He did his training in the mid-70s with a group of lawyers in a place called Lincoln's Inn, which is one of the traditional official inns of court in central London. One day he fell into conversation with the senior lawyer in his group, who happened to have been one of the prosecutors at the Nuremberg trials. Most people know that people like Hermann Goering and other headline figures received their punishment in this court. But what most people do not know is that it was not just the higher-ups who received punishment in these trials. Justice also eventually caught up with much more minor persons who thought that the phrase, "I was only taking orders," would be a defence. It was not. Today's doctors, nurses, head teachers, police, newspaper editors, and yes, YouTube censors and others who have been complicit in this crime against humanity should realise that I was only following government guidelines, I was only doing what my boss told me to do, and other forms of taking orders will not save you when the tide turns and the elite sail into the sunset in their super yachts, leaving you, the useful idiots, bobbing about in a sea of thirst for revenge. You should stop complying before it is too late. Had the death penalty, as opposed to simply some mild hand-wringing and censure, been imposed on the perpetrators of the thalidomide scandal, a drug which resulted in horrific suffering, and other medical scandals too, we might not be where we find ourselves today. But humanity has let these evildoers get away with saying, "Oops, sorry, we made a mistake." I do hope that we do not look back on this time without seeing the blood of these monsters visible on the pages of future history books. It's time to speak out.